I love that the Americans are banning TikTok now. I love it.
I think what is particularly funny is the way CNN has put the article. If the US bans TikTok, China will be getting a taste of its own medicine.
Right. Well, so far the US has had a monopoly on this, right?
Mhm.
Instagram, Facebook, Meta, whatever.
I think only one. There's only one digital platform that comes out of like a major platform. I think that's OnlyFans.
That comes out of Europe.
It's out of
Right.
Europe. Everything else is out of America. YouTube, Amazon,
Yeah. Trust the Europeans.
Meta Marketplace. The whole, all of it.
Right.
But do you think that there is a particular reason why they're targeting TikTok, or do you think it's just
I think so. There's a couple of theories that are floating around. Number one, you have to admit that the US has used all these apps for data collection, and it's no secret that with the NSA scandal and everything that came out in light of the Patriot Act after 2001, that these companies do work with the government.
yeah?
They do collect data on their behalf. And I think one of the reasons that the US is so paranoid about China doing the same thing is because they have done it in the most effective manner for the last however many years these apps have been around. And a part of me has to say that their paranoia might be well placed, because if these governments can use these apps to collect data and spy
I,
on
I, I
other
wouldn't
countries.
describe it as paranoia because I think it's a performative. I think a lot of the China baiting is a performative kind of paranoia, where the idea is that they're building a narrative. It's mostly propaganda, because I don't think politicians are actually paranoid about anything, in terms of national security or securing the rights of their people or liberty or any of those ideas. I think it's a performative paranoia that they play out because they have to build a narrative. Because recently, we all know that the Joe Rogan podcast came back to YouTube.
Yeah,
That
thank
was a
God.
big,
Right?
yeah. It was horrible when it was on Spotify. But recently, there was this guy who's a professor, and he's one of those. Do you remember that one professor James Lindsay, who kept writing fake woke articles to get published in like news journals and and academic journals? Do you remember that guy? All right. James Lindsay is a professor, and he and his friend decided that they were going to make fake woke articles. They just made them up like I don't know, the heteronormative gender dispositions of dogs in a park or something ridiculous, right? And they started publishing those papers, and they would get peer reviewed, and then they would get published, and that was the idea, that they did a very elaborate prank basically.
Okay.
So James Lindsay sort of anti-woke, intellectual dark web. We're anti-woke. Just completely, I think is a completely ridiculous sort of very particular period in time where all these people became famous. Like I guess like Ben Shapiro.
Sam Harris.
No, Sam Harris has had a longer career. As the new atheist types have had longer careers, I think.
True, but then he sort of branched off and
It,
joined
it was
forces.
it was a very safe
Jordan Peterson, Eric Weinstein.
and the sort of the political backlash for all of the wokeism can be dumped on China. There's always a common thread
Right.
with all of these people. So James Lindsay, I only watched like 15 minutes of the podcast, and it starts off with him basically suggesting that there are thousands of military-age Chinese males in America.
Okay.
And the way that they're trying to structure that argument, and Joe Rogan, obviously, considering that he has been on the CIA payroll, considering that he's sort of, he rolls out ideas into the zeitgeist, into the mainstream. That's how dumb people find out, what's going on.
Right.
He's always, nodding along, like, yeah, this seems like a serious thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a real threat to America if there's even tens of thousands of Chinese, military age males.
Yeah, it's probably not.
Who are migrants. It's a completely absurd notion, and I don't think that the migration problem is necessarily that there's a lot of Chinese people coming in who are I don't know, Manchurian candidates or are going to when they're given their safe words that they're going to activate and attack, military installations in America or any of those things. But the image that they're always trying to build, that's why I say it's performative paranoia, is that, that there's a big threat from China. And that China is the one that's pulling the levers in terms of US foreign policy and domestic policy, and is influencing Capitol Hill, and, is buying out politicians.
Which is an absurd idea.
I don't think it's China,
Right.
It's not altogether far-fetched, because that's how foreign policy works, right? You create a lobby, you send migrants, you make good economic trades with countries, however, how the amount of corporate exchange you can have, blah, 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 blah. But at its core, if we had to really consider which country influences American foreign policy as well as domestic policy the most, there's some reason that the intellectual dark web, all the conservative retards or whatever, never figure out is Israel.
Right. I wonder why.
It's because hasn't Ben Shapiro, isn't like everybody working for the Daily Wire at this point?
Yeah, pretty much. Ben Shapiro is financing most conservative voices, or at least mainstream conservative voices in America.
This is Senator Tom Cotton. He is questioning the CEO of TikTok, and in a Senate hearing, it happened a couple of months ago, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it was a month ago. This is genuinely hilarious, by the way.
You said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever
No, Senator. I only love China.
applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in Singapore.
Do you have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
Not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm Singaporean.
China number one, Senator.
Right.
No, I genuinely think that it's funny in the way that he's grilling him, but I also think that it's kind of awesome that he's grilling him that way. And I think that this guy is Mr. Shou Chew. What's his name? Mr. Shou Chew.
Mr. Chu.
Mr. Chew is like this guy, the CEO of TikTok, is also a master at this, clearly.
He's really, in fact, he won the exchange, because if you look at the comments, everybody's just like, what's wrong with the congressman? He has no manners. Like
He's a senator, Tom.
Yeah, the senator. How is this guy a senator in America? We're doomed. Because like Mr. Chu does like a very good job of making him seem,
Look crazy.
Yeah, look crazy, and he makes himself look defenseless. Like, Senator, I'm from China. I'm not Chinese. I'm from Singapore. So he does like a very good job of sort of winning the audience, I guess, over and everybody. But like, it's clear what the senator is trying to do. Like, his line of questioning is actually not unreasonable at all.
I mean, I think the way he's framing his questions is a problem, but like the actual intent behind the questioning, I get. What I have a problem with is the whole performative nature of the paranoia.
Right.
If there was something actually to be done about China, right? Like for example, so there was this one incident of a Harvard professor. I think that he was compromised by some Chinese woman. You remember, it was in and around.
He was honey trapped.
It was honey trapped by some Chinese woman, and he'd been working for the CCP or something.
Got that yellow fever. Oh yeah.
That makes sense. I get it. It's possible. I totally understand that these things happen. But what's more reasonable is I think it's a deflection from the actual tangible, sizable problem that America has on its foreign policy, which is Israel and Saudi Arabia.
Right, like
At least in the Middle East.
two big question marks.
Just two giant question marks, which have completely... Essentially, if there's a reason why 2 billion Muslims hate America, is because Israel and Saudi Arabia.
Right.
In one way or the other.
Right. And so like the thing I was alluding to earlier, it was a leaked call from like the head of the Anti-Defamation League.
Okay.
I forget what his name is, something Greenbald. And
Some kind of.
yeah, so like in that call, what he's essentially saying is, he says he's addressing like the committee, and he's like, we have a generational problem, especially with TikTok, because all of the Gen Z kids on TikTok, they are very pro Palestine now. They did like this survey, and it turned out that
Oh, the ADL, Anti-Defamation
the
League.
Anti-Defamation
Dude,
League.
that's like a Zionist. It was formed because there was some Jewish guy in the, I think, the 60s or the 50s who had raped a girl, and they had to defend him.
Yeah.
That's some like Zionist nutcase.
Yeah. No, like the point of that is to, combat quote unquote anti-Semitism.
Yeah, but whatever, Israel is having a foreign policy image problem.
Right, exactly. So they said they have a TikTok problem, and they showed a survey that around 98% of all Israel Palestine related hashtags on TikTok, 98% were in favor of Palestine
In America.
in America. Right. So this was clearly a big problem for them, because they think that TikTok is sort of pushing the narrative in one direction.
No, but do you think that's a consequence of TikTok pushing a narrative, or do you think that that is inevitably how the Gen Z people just feel? Or is it a bit of both, you think?
I think it would be a bit of both, because if we do like buy into this that China, and 100% China must be, on some level engineering.
Have you noticed like immediately like with China that we have to always clarify that we don't trust them?
Yeah.
It's a weird instinct if you think about it. We wouldn't do that maybe with an America or with a Western European country.
I guess not, because I think a lot of these leftists, they sort of just, they accept, if they reject the American narrative about China or the Western narrative, they just like accept
That's
China.
true. It's a blanket sort of.
Yeah.
The left has a problem, especially in America, that they have a blanket sort of attitude towards China.
Yeah, where they just champion China as like this, bastion of like socialist ideas or something like that.
Which is not. But yo, I get your argument. If we were to honestly like consider like realpolitik or whatever, of course China would mess around in America's elections and in the way social ideas are developed and the way their society grows and shrinks. Of course, at the same time. I mean, isn't that true? It's the mainstream of all of media. I'm not just talking about social media. That's America. That's reverse. It's the reverse of it, right? It's America pumping out. So all mainstream media on earth.
Yeah.
I'm not even being facetious. I'm saying all mainstream media on earth.
Yeah.
Would have some sort of influence in one way or the other from Western powers.
Right.
So if the reverse of that through a TikTok, I guess. I mean. I think China did pretty well.
Yeah, they've done a good job.
Like all the American apps now have to copy TikTok, right? Instagram Reels,
Yeah, true.
YouTube Shorts.
True.
Everything is copying
The TikTok format.
The TikTok format, yeah.
But isn't TikTok inspired by Vine?
No, there was a bunch of apps before that. What I'm saying is successfully over a series of of games, TikTok has been able to maintain.
Yeah.
A sizable user base.
Yeah. Half of all Americans use TikTok. Almost half.
America is like what, 500 million people, 450 million people?
I guess.
Roughly.
Yeah.
It's probably double our population.
I think it's 300 million, isn't it?
I think it's double our population. I think it's about 400 or 500 million people. I have no idea.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of on Earth. Probably, maybe TikTok should be coming up in the top 10, right? Most used applications.
Yeah, probably.
Definitely.
Yeah. Why do you think they've taken this step to ban it now? And it's not even like a straight up, blanket ban. What they've said is essentially that
You sell it to some sort of American,
Yeah.
Pre-approved corporate interest, which is another really fascinating tangent. I don't think any of the alphabet companies or what the hell we call them, tech companies, I don't think any of them are really private corporations. Especially on the scale that they operate. It depends on the scale that they operate. I mean, like a like a Tesla or a SpaceX or an Apple
Right.
or a
Meta.
Google or a Meta. I don't think they're really private companies. I genuinely don't believe that. Because when you look into, I saw this one interview. I mean, I've heard these things all over the place, right? That DARPA, and I've read some stuff as well, that DARPA provided the initial funding for Google, and then, blah, blah, blah. And DARPA, the weapons research program,
Right.
the weapons research department, I guess, that comes under the Pentagon. But then recently I saw on the Tucker Carlson, after his firing, has made a news channel,
Yeah.
the TCN, which is hilarious, by the way. What a silly name. So on that, he was interviewing this guy who had worked, I think, for some sort of intelligence, some sort of intelligence background.
Right.
He basically provided the actual evidence for the initial funding for Google by DARPA, and then how DARPA's pilot project, which had already existed, which was for their own satellite mapping, they gave it to Google Maps, and that's how Google Maps came about. And the program under which it was designed, it was called Birds of a Feather Flock Together. And the idea was that they develop a search engine which allows them to observe trends. So basically, they've been working on the idea of the attention economy, since way back then. So even before the internet was rolled out, they had an idea of, how are we going to create, clusters of audiences, and what are we going to do with the data, and Google and these sorts of things are pilot projects. That's why I don't take I espouse a lot of free market values. I like the idea of a free market and
Right.
in principle, and like price controls. I don't like them. Hire and fire. People should be able to. But in essence, I don't think these things are really true in the way that and on a national or an international level. I think corporates are just extensions of the state, they're assets of the state, and
Right. It's sort of impossible to become that big without some kind of
no.
collusion from the
And also, I think that the reason why they're having a big bandwidth problem in convincing American people that TikTok is bad is because they view TikTok as a private corporation, just the way they view a Google or an Apple. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So in order to bridge the gap, he has to be like, "Are you related to the CCP,
Right.
Mr. Chew?" You know what I mean? He has to hammer in. That's why I think the propaganda is so performative. It's so, China, and they've been spying on us. And,
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to be working so far.
that's why I'm saying that, because I don't think that they haven't gapped that. I think the average American doesn't give a shit
About China?
about anything.
What do you mean?
I think they're in that state of empire where just food is abundant. There's there's a lot of distractions, video games and porn, and I don't know what else, like fantasy football leagues. I don't know what they do.
I don't think they have fantasy football in the US, do they?
They do American football.
Yeah, okay.
Not football.
Okay.
They have a lot of. All I'm saying is that they have a lot of distractions, and they don't have to put in a lot of effort to be able to purchase said distractions.
Right.
They don't have to put in a lot of effort to make money, to make subsistence money, let's say.
Right.
So that's not a society that's going to be pushing the ticket in terms of what they believe and why they believe. So I think the performative aspects are simply for this sort of maybe Washington, New York, California, maybe some really conservative Texans, and I think just the main city voter base that they have to convince. Right.
Who might actually be convinced by this kind of thing.
I think most of them are. I think Americans are one of the most propagandized people on earth. I've never seen them more propagandized. I feel like they have no intuitive communal sense of anything that's going on around them. I think they just believe mostly. Like, I have no idea how they believed the Iraq war. I genuinely have no idea.
Yeah.
I was listening to somebody, I don't remember who, and they're essentially I think it was GDF. You know GDF? Do you know the guy GDF?
No.
Dude, GDF is a great guy. You should see his channel. I'm just going to show the channel. I'm not going to show his videos because they're pretty long. GDF is this guy. He makes their like video essays.
Okay.
And they're honestly they're off the rails.
Okay.
They're very well researched, and
in the last video he made, it's called "Who Really Controls U.S. Foreign Policy."
Yeah, it's very relevant to the TikTok debate, honestly, also. I would recommend that everybody watch
Oh
it.
no, I know this guy.
You know this guy,
I
right?
know this guy. Yeah.
He makes the
Super based guy.
yeah, super based guy. So he basically he reported on a breakdown of CNN guests post 7th October. Since the fight started in Gaza, he did a breakdown of the number of guests they've had. They had one Palestinian. They had only one Palestinian person
Okay,
on CNN.
that's absurd.
They had Americans and they had Israelis to come and talk about the conflict. They had one Palestinian guy. You know who the guy was? Hussam Zomlot, the guy who's the ambassador to the UK, I think, for the West Bank.
Okay,
That's the only guy they had on.
that's absurd.
Of course, they're going to be retarded.
Right.
So all the liberal lib types, right, when you're watching CNN, are going to have a retarded opinion about the conflict.
Now the CNN Fox News thing is hilarious because, like, whatever the story is, Fox News will have like the most extreme possible variation on the right, and then CNN will have like the most
No,
extreme.
not
on
the
left.
most extreme, within the acceptable.
Yeah, and I should clarify. Yeah, within like the most acceptable, not the most extreme, but it'll be like polar opposites sort
They'll
of,
always just be polar opposites.
but two sides of the same coin.
The uniparty,
The uniparty, the permanent war state
the
uniparty.
permanent war state uniparty. I honestly
That's a shout out to Dan Cohen.
I honestly don't understand why. So if you want to ban TikTok, okay, I can get the argument.
Yeah.
But it's always about, in America, whenever they always have to curtail some sort of civil liberties or freedoms, they always have to point to somebody else. So China banned video games for kids for below a certain age, and they banned sissy boys, and they banned a bunch of things for more masculine, to encourage more masculine behaviors. That's not the kind of society you've built. I feel like they have a very sincere desire, clearly, the state apparatus, to reverse the kind of freedoms that Americans enjoy. They clearly do.
You think so?
Yeah, they want to be China. Everyone who runs the American state, they want to be China. They really want to be China.
Yeah, because it's just so much easier. You don't have to jump through all these hoops, like this complex sort of apparatus to first convince half the population that what we're doing is right.
Also, like the way they've managed that up till now is a retarded sort of left-right paradigm.
Yeah.
Right. They can do away with that eventually. Actually, no. You know what? I mean, they'll have their own cultural version of the CCP, right? So that might be, that might still have a performative left versus right wrestling match every once in a while. A kayfabe WWE style. But I don't think that it's going to be much different from, because in terms of whatever's been important for the American establishment, they've done it.
Right.
Right. When are the people have been actually able to stop them? For me, I think maybe Syria. When Obama tried to get into Syria, remember? And there's big protests, and he was already losing a lot of favor.
Well, there have been times when there's been sufficient pressure, like I think with Vietnam, going back into history, and then
So coming out of the war, sure, but going into the war, no. So then they had already achieved what they wanted to achieve.
right, where I guess you can say that once like the big business interests have decided that they want to do something, it's hard.
They're going to do it. Yeah, they're going to do it. And then Obama came up with the smart war doctrine, where they just did all those things, but they just never told anyone. Without actual military boots on the ground, they would just send contractors and maybe training groups and like just as advisors, they would send the American military in.
Right.
And they did a bunch of smart wars in North Africa and in the Middle East. And
Right. And now they're doing a bunch of proxy wars.
I think they're even in Israel, by the way. Do you see the picture?
As in physically in Israel?
Oh yeah, there was a picture of the White House posted a picture on their Facebook, I think, of Biden shaking hands with like a troop captain.
Okay.
With his platoon or whatever. and he was congratulating them on their operation in Gaza. And they were Americans, and then they deleted the picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the White House. I don't think these things happen on accident.
Yeah, that would make me very worried about the state of the world. Where
Well, it's not. I don't know.
this kind of
I think
these
this
kinds of screw ups.
It's part of the.
It's part of the game. You
Yeah,
think
like when Biden came out and said, "Okay, you know how Biden, the character that they make him play is the I don't know what I am and what am I doing?" And there's elements of him actually being really old as well. But do you remember when they started to push the lie that 40 beheaded babies, 40 beheaded babies, 40 beheaded? They got the president of America to say it. I never thought I'd see photos of children with their beheaded.
Why did you say he's playing a character? Do you think
I don't think any of the, I don't think listen, like, do you know the amount of money? So it's like I don't know if it's an appropriate example, but it's a dumb example. Like, do you know that the Super Bowl ads, halftime ads, right? One of they're like, the slots are mad expensive, right? I don't know, like $20-30 million, I guess.
Right.
One of them was bought by Kanye West. You saw that?
I didn't see the ad. I heard that this happened.
Yeah, he made the ad with his phone.
Okay.
Yeah, he had the money to buy the slot.
Yeah.
You don't think some marketing team puts their brain into, like,
Yeah, that if you make it with your phone, it'll be like really authentic.
And he says, I used up all my money to buy the ad. I don't have any money to make the video. Whatever criminal speak that they have. So this guy, you think that's not some marketing gimmick? That they don't spend millions of dollars. So I think the biggest marketing gimmick is the president. He's the marketing gimmick. I don't think these things just happen. I think they really plan these things really well.
You think the biggest marketing gimmick is the president?
Yes, because that's telling them the whole idea, the whole economy is the whole wheel is turning around the
one guy,
the office of the president. Yeah.
Do you think like Trump and Biden sort of like shake hands behind closed doors?
No, I generally think they're opponents in whatever sense, and they represent different interest groups maybe. But I don't think that it's as simple as, Biden gaffes, he forgot. He plays a character, I think.
What's the point of playing that character? Of showing the world
I think
that
to demoralize the American public so that they can take a hard shift towards the right.
Really?
Yeah.
That is what has happened actually.
Yeah.
At least that's the feeling I'm getting.
Yeah.
Yes, and just watching the political discourse.
No, I think that the future is inevitably clear for Western Europe and America, that the Chinese, the authoritarian style, CCP style government that they want can only come if they push this sort of, if a Christian fascism or a nationalism. Now that's not going to be part of the mainstream.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but it's always there in the zeitgeist. And that keeps pushing the acceptable range of opinions farther to the right. In America, generally, if you look at the spectrum, it's sort of skewed to the right. It always has been. And you just keep pushing. So the center keeps getting pushed away from the left, just farther to the right. It always has been in America. And I think that is the future for the Western European, for the NATO empire. If they want to,
I don't know if that's true. Like, you think that American society has been moving right slowly? Or
I think the society has. I think what we consume of the society is not what is real. I think we watch these idiots, right? What was this idiot? This what was this woman? Taylor Lorenz, fake leftist, and this fake white woman.
Libs of TikTok.
Yeah, Libs of TikTok is not a real white person.
Yeah.
Was it some Israeli spy or whatever? And this fake conservative and this fake liberal. Right. This is the kind of idiot that we see. And we saw, what was this video?
These two battling it out on the streets.
Yeah, battling it out on the streets. These two dumb suburban stupid who have no idea.
That was harsh.
Yeah, no, they deserve all the hate, honestly. Like, they're retarding the American people. I can see that from all the way from over here.
But with regards to like just American society, we've discussed this before where a lot of their social stances have been shifted to the left. For example, with regards to sexuality,
In terms of their consumptions, yeah.
you know, you will be hard pressed to find conservatives these days who will openly, oppose
Or
homosexuality. For example.
porn, or degeneracy, sexual. They're all fake conservatives. They're all Israeli conservatives. That's the problem.
What the
All,
heck is?
all American conservatives just Israelis. That's the main problem. That's the main problem. Shaya Raishik, Ben Shabibo.
Yeah, that is true.
None of them are white. None of them are white. None of them are Christian. None of them are actual conservatives.
What about Jordan Peterson? He's Canadian.
He's a piece of shit. Jordan Peterson's not a real Christian. He doesn't believe in God. He doesn't believe in anything. His God is money.
What about Dave Rubin?
He's a gay Jew. What's conservative about that? I don't get it.
Oh, what about Tucker Carlson?
Tucker Carlson on the Iraq War, he was very wrong. And there's this one tape of him where he's talking about Iraqis that they're not even like human beings or something.
Right.
I understand what kind of guy he is. He also pushes like an agenda, even after his firing and the TCN. I get it. But I like him. I like him.
You do?
I like him. I like him enough. I like him enough to listen to him once in a while. The Putin interview was hilarious.
Yeah, the Putin interview is fun.
The 1 hour history lecture.
Have you seen the one where it's the Putin interview, except it's like this character from Skyrim describing like the entire history of.
Oh no, it's not him. It's the guy from
Morrowind.
What's his
Yeah.
name? No, but I think Tucker's a very fascinating, question. I don't fully trust Tucker Carlson either.
Yeah, he's too big to be trusted.
Yeah.
And he's done too many big moves now.
On Fox and off Fox as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's too likable for his own good.
He's a bit of the way he laughs freaks me out always.
Yeah. The laugh he does is.
He does. Also, sometimes he does seem like he's putting it on, like he's not a real person.
And he has too much of a tan. Have you noticed?
Yeah, for his ethnicity maybe.
Anybody who gets a tan.
No, but that's because I've heard he's outdoorsy. He likes fishing and.
No, bro. It's like. It's one of those tans.
Oh, one of those tanning bed tans.
One of those deep orange man bad tans.
Have you seen the transgender conservative?
No.
Dude, he's a mainstream conservative now, this guy. This dude is a mainstream conservative.
It seems like at this point, all they have to do is like, okay, let's just launch a gay guy to be conservative. Let's launch a transgender guy.
This guy.
Blair White. Okay.
This guy is a conservative. Because this guy shoots guns.
This is an AR-15. Actually, this is an AR-15. You guys are literally so dumb. This is an AR-15.
It's just some guy. This is so abnormal. Look at his man hands.
Yeah.
He has man hands. What are you doing? How is this a conservative, dude?
You think like Americans are buying into this?
Yes, they are. Dude, the guy has millions of views. Dude, look at it.
Maybe it's just like
1.3 million subscribers.
Don't you think it's because of the novelty factor?
Dude, all of his takes are conservative. It's not. He would drive away so many of the liberal types, right?
Yeah.
He's doing the whole gauntlet, like hating on Pride Parade cartoons. And
How is he hitting on Pride Parade cartoons if he's transgender?
he's a reasonable transgender. That's what he's trying to say.
I guess he's towing the line that, I might be a transgender, but I draw the line and when you tell someone's kids about homosexuality.
Do you think that they managed to pull it off? Do you think they'll be able to ban it?
They might be able to. The thing is that TikTok in America is like, it's monetized, right?
Yeah.
So
You'll make money off it.
yeah, if you're banning it, you're probably shutting down like this huge economy.
No, the alternative they've given them is sell it.
But how would that work? Would they sell TikTok or would they make like this or maybe like the specific branch of TikTok that operates in the US.
They would sell I would say, I feel like they would work like a franchise probably, that you guys get to manage it and then we get like a dividend of the profit or something. I think the argument that they've presented is that we're not safe with our data. We don't feel safe with our data being shared with the CCP. And we're not comfortable with the social engineering. It's both ways of the data coming out and going in.
Right.
So the argument that was very nice that you mentioned the Palestine thing. I think that they want to be able to engineer the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha. Those are the ones after Gen Z, right?
Right.
They want to be able to engineer, and they're mostly on just social media. They're not on forums, they're not on websites, they're not on TV, they're not reading the newspaper, they're not, they're mostly on TikTok and Instagram, I think, and maybe Twitter, I don't know. So I think the idea is that they're going to, because I don't think in America they're going to ever have a blanket, ban, CCP style takeover of just, public media and art and whatever. I think they're always going to be subtle about it than the CCP because of the different cultural values and the way America has been historically.
Right. It's harder to sell this idea in America.
They have to really game the system. I think you need a 9/11 before you can have a Patriot Act in America.
Right.
Even though they were spying on the people before that, but they need to go through all the legal sort of loopholes and I think all this really does tie in with because they've already grilled all the social media, right? They grilled Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
They grilled that weird guy who used to own Twitter. What was that guy's name? Jack Dorsey. That oiled pimp. Jack Dorsey.
They grilled the Google guy. The Indian.
Sundar Pichai. Yeah, that poor. No, sir, I don't know, sir. Sir, I did not upload the. Well, what is my email password? Sir,
Why are these Congress guys so unlikable, by the way? Like, I've never seen a video of
Like a
one
well
of these
put
hearings,
together-
where it's like, the congressman, the senator, he was really articulate.
They've had a couple of. I don't know which is which. Who's a senator and who's a congressman and what. I can't tell. But
Yeah.
there's one guy, Trey Gowdy. He was pretty fascinating.
I don't remember that guy. Who's the guy with the eye patch?
Oh yeah, the
The guy, looks like Solid Snake.
yeah. The
Metal Gear
guy.
Solid.
He was in the Iraq War, I think, and he lost his eye.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten his name, but he's a neocon. He's an Israel guy.
Yeah.
He's a real piece of shit. But yeah, no, he has a nice look.
He's got a cool aesthetic going on.
He had
at
a
least.
cool aesthetic going on for him, but then he just turned out. His political career is pretty much tanked. His public popularity is pretty much tanked.
Right.
People don't like him.
There's barely anybody, who.
What did you see the bottom of the barrel like conservatives that they had to throw at the Republican
I did not.
Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki
Oh,
Haley?
right. Okay.
Just bottom of the barrel. They're just like
Yeah.
they're scraping at this point. Like here's an Indian guy,
Yeah.
And what a weird guy that Vivek Ramaswamy was.
In what sense?
It just didn't seem like a real person to me.
He was like a weird mismatch of like all these different things.
It felt like they made like one of those, like Venn diagrams
Yeah.
with all the talking points that the young conservatives are into.
What young conservative is like, I want an Indian guy in charge. I want a Hindu. I don't think there's.
Mr. Vindaloo. No, I think that was the only that was the only like the spin ball. I think all of his opinions, that was the curveball, but all of his opinions were, I felt like, gamed by some sort of AI, how to build the perfect conservative. It's just that the technology wasn't right at the time.
What about RFK Jr.? He also was.
He was a Democrat candidate, yeah. Then he went independent.
He did, but he had like a lot of these conservative talking points, like with regards to vaccines and
The war in Russia,
yeah,
the war against Ukraine. He didn't support the Ukraine,
yeah, and then all of a sudden he just
I mean, Israel, man, they all have to bow. I don't blame anyone in America that they don't, in public life, in any sort of public life, when they don't bow down to Israel. I get it. When they do bow down to Israel, I get it. Like if you're in media, if you're in, in politics or any sort of,
Yeah.
public, even in sports, I think you shouldn't mess with, I get it because they are the APEC, है ना उसका नाम? Yeah, APEC.
APAC, yeah.
APEC has a big chokehold on, and the ADL and
And all these
all,
big think tanks.
like, just look at how well they're represented in media. It's nuts. Like they look, so alternative conservatives were what? They were the alt-right.
Yeah.
Is this the alt-right? Ben Shapiro,
Yeah.
Shapiro, and what's his name? What's her name? Brett Cooper.
Yeah.
Matt Walsh, the Jews of the Daily Wire.
Is Matt Walsh also like...
No, he's some Catholic white guy, but he's on the Daily Wire payroll.
yeah.
He's an idiot.
He's just, he exists solely for like that transgender sort
That's
of
it. Yeah.
debate. What is a woman?
They have him there. Yeah, that's his shtick.
Yeah. But it's a slippery slope. They've already lost too much ground. I don't see them.
No,
recover.
they've lost their audience. I'm telling you, they've lost. So okay. They haven't lost in the sense of that they're making money and they have like a few million idiots who are really into them. But
No, like these people, look, there will always be an audience that, there will always be like a market to tap
Sure,
into, right?
sure, yeah.
It is the land of opportunity. Yay. But the point being that the conservatives who are truly conservatives, want to be conservative in their
Yeah, they've
day-to-day
lost
life.
them. They've lost them.
They, like the conservatives themselves, they've lost so much ground. Like, how can, like the gay marriage thing, for example. I don't think you can go back on that now.
No, you can't put that. That genie's not going back in the bottle.
Yeah, so that thing is lost. The
Transgenderism is also over. They're over.
people chopping off the genitals,
It's over.
It's done.
It's done.
Now, like the last sort of, line that they have is, stay away from the kids.
No, that's. I feel like it's a moot point.
Yeah, it
It's a
doesn't.
moot point.
The way the framework in which they're arguing,
It's a moot point.
it doesn't make any sense.
The framework and the arguing is a secular constitutional framework,
Yeah,
which is about the age of consent.
right.
It needs to be something more visceral, something more, let's say, divinely inspired, religiously motivated. That's the only way it's going to stop it.
Yeah, no, they've lost the religious
No,
spark.
I think the whoever is below like 10 or 12 right now, none of them are safe. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to. I think that's the next big. That's the next big stepping stone in their sort of cultural development.
Really?
Yeah.
They're gonna target like these kids? That's horrifying.
Well, because the slippery slope that conservatives all over the world had identified in the 60s and 70s and 80s was this very slippery slope, right?
Right.
If you do this gay marriage stuff, if you bring it out in the public, then the end is, I don't know, pedophilia, incest.
Right.
What's the animal one? Bestiality. That's the logical.
Yeah.
That was the slippery slope that was presented. It was poo-pooed. There was a lot of jokes about it. It was like, this idiot conservative.
Yeah.
This is exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Like all the sort of concerns that they had, they've come true.
Every
Basically.
single one.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can put that. What I have heard is that if if a generation as a whole starts to behave in a different sort of paradigm, then I can change. Maybe like Gen Z gives birth to like the really religious
Yeah.
generation. Because Gen Z has a lot of like, I'm a stoic and I'm a bodybuilder and I've been black pilled, I've been red pill time.
Right. So like Gen X was, I think, the first generation that, really started leaning into like this atheism or like stepped away from religion, and then the
New
millennials
atheism.
were pretty bad with it, and then Gen Z sort of is taking another step back towards
Yeah.
religiosity,
Which is pretty cool.
which is, it makes sense.
And obviously in the start with Gen Z is going to be retarded. the way it's sort of retarded, like a performative sort of religiosity, like like Christian, Bible songs or whatever. And but I think that this is the sort of it's happening here as well
Pakistan.
in the Muslim world.
Weren't we always religious?
No, there have been
Ups and downs.
ups and downs.
Actually, I think like the war on terror, that really had like a profound cultural impact on the psychology of Muslims as well. I think a lot of these older like Gen X boomers,
They were very religious.
they got influenced by like that war on terror stuff,
Yeah.
right?
And then they affected their kids.
Yeah, for sure. And even like as kids, growing up in that sort of environment where you're constantly being bombarded by this idea.
Or physically being bombarded.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also just like psychologically being bombarded by this idea of, Muslims are terrorists, blah, blah, blah. So it does impact you on some
Yeah.
level.
No, I mean just the whole. No, it's not just Muslims are terrorists. I think the we were forced to ask a lot of existential questions about our own belief system, the way our societies are organized.
Yeah, because it was constantly being attacked, right?
Just from every single angle. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Also, seeing yourself as a bad guy in video games and films and TV, it's pretty. I think it has some sort of psychological effect. I don't know what, but
it must.
I don't know what it's called, but I definitely have it.
Yeah, but I will say this, that whenever I'm playing Counter Strike, I tend to always pick the terrorists first. When I'm playing casual matchups.
Yeah, no, I always even as a
I empathize with
even as a kid, like always the terrorists and the bad guys, I would like their armor sets more, and
yeah.
because they would look more ethnic.
It's like my people.
My people. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, like they're moving more towards religion. Let's see. I think we're gonna see like the moral decay of this once great empire.
Yeah.
And at least when it's all said and done, we can say that they gave us Star Wars. And that's not nothing.